Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. My name is David Gilbert. I know I introduced myself earlier, but I wanted to just kind of mention it again. I've been a member of this group for a while, probably over a year or something like that, and it's been super helpful. Like these guys mentioned here, I love seeing new faces. I love being in tune with everything that's going on and exchanging ideas with everyone. So what I want to talk about today is kind of I wouldn't call it an under-radar technology, but it's definitely something that's not gotten a lot of press, if you will. Microsoft announced this originally as Bing for Business as a preview about 2 years ago at the Ignite conference. And at the company I was with then, we got involved. We were part of the preview, and we were testing a lot of it out. And a lot of the things, especially with the bookmarks and Q&A, kind of came out of that idea. I'll just see it through here. So I'm going to talk today about Microsoft Search on Bing. If you want to follow along, pretty much this entire organization, the way I put this together, is all on docs.microsoft.com/Microsoft Search. If there's one URL you remember today, that's the one. That's kind of the definitive site on Docs as far as this tool goes. So this is about two different experiences that we're already familiar with that are currently separate. Our internet searches, where we go out and we go to Bing or another search engine, and we go out and we search the internet and we get our results back. But during the day, we also go out to Office 365, Microsoft 365, and I'm just going to call it Office 365 for the rest of the presentation, just for simplicity. This is all the same on Microsoft 365 as well. So we have users going out to the internet, we have users going out to the portal to search for their content, and before Bing for Business, or Microsoft Search, I won't be calling it the old thing much, we didn't really have those two experiences combined together. So that's what I want to talk about today, is taking that search. So up there, I'm in Bing and I search for Office, and I get my usual Office search results for searching there for that keyword. And I search for that same keyword on Office 365, and I get my usual results back from my tenant. So what Microsoft Search on Bing does is it merges these experiences together in Bing. So up here on the top, and I'm going to jump into a demo here in a minute, I search for Office on Bing, having logged in to my tenant through Bing, and the first set of results that come back are from my tenant. So the first box that comes up here underneath the search results is the search results from Microsoft and Office 365. And I'm going to go into more detail about what exactly that is coming up here. And then the rest of the search results from the internet are below. So what we're doing is we're basically not necessarily mixing them together, but bringing both sets of results, going out and searching the internet and searching the Office tenant at the same time, and then searching those Office 365 results at the top, and then the rest of the results at the bottom, all through Bing. So that's what I'm going to cover today. So let me jump right into a demo here. All right. So we go to Bing.com, and here's how you can, everything I'm pretty much going to demo today is also in the slides. So if I come up here and Yep. I'm going to go through that next. Okay. So what I'm going to do is show you all the really cool stuff, and I'm going to show you how to set it all up. Thank you. No problem. So we go to Bing, and here we sign in. So I'm just going to put this down for a second and sign in. So now you'll see on the top right corner, I have my name, and I have my Office 365 site icon, and if I click on this, you'll see that I'm currently signed in through my work or school account through Office 365. So I'm going to do that same query that you saw earlier. Okay. This is what this search experience is like. So as you saw in the screenshot earlier, what it's doing is going out, leveraging Microsoft Search and the Graph API, and Bing is connecting through that and running that search on my tenant and bringing that information back. So this is no different from a security standpoint than you would get from Office 365. So there's no security concerns with that. It's all tied to whatever account you're logging in with. You will also detect that I have not been on here before, so I'll get this little suggestions panel. This may also pop up on the top up there. And what you'll get back, if it's just a regular search string, it's not a specific person or a name or a location or anything like that, you'll get this typical search results back. So by default, it's defaulting to all results, which is going to go across files, sites, teams, Yammer, groups, all that content. And you can turn on and off what you want to surface up here, and I'll show you how to do that. And I can drill into this a little bit here. So from the all results, I can click on files. And again, this is stuff that I only have access to. So I'm going to see my OneDrive, I'm going to see SharePoint sites, and all of that right from, and I'm still in Bing at this point. Here's the sites, and here's conversations. Same idea. Now conversations also, since I have Teams and Yammer turned on this tenant, I get those results back all together under all, and then separately out with Teams and Yammer. There's no Yammer conversations at this particular site. And below it, I still have my normal internet searches showing up there. And this little tag, or this little box, if you will, can be hidden. And you saw me unhide it earlier. It's got a little hide over here. And it'll hide that entire box for you. And so if you just want to do some internet searches for a while and don't really care about the tenant results, you can always go back and click that. It's not showing up on the screen here. You'll get it either on the right-hand side or you'll get it under this show results. So I can go back and always redo it. Now, there's other kinds of interesting stuff you can do here. I'm not going to demo all of them. I'm going to demo the main ones I've used. If I just search for me, I get me. So this is kind of like the Delve experience. It automatically figured out that that's a special keyword, and it jumped over to the People Results tab, and I get myself. So I see my name there, I see my calendar, and I can go now and see my files, my sites, all those types of things. You get this once in a while. Besides the me, another one that I use is the My Documents. As you would expect, this is another keyword that's set up to go to me and then jump over to the Files tab within my area to immediately go to all the stuff that you saw before as far as the file results. So that's nice, but what about someone's name? I have a guy out here, his last name is Baloney. And it's going to go, oh, that's a last name. And there's a guy named Tony Baloney. I'm going to bring him up. So first names, last names, full names, all those types of things that you would get in the people search section in Delve all come up here as well. And it goes, hey, I know that. And that's a name. I'm going to jump to the people tab, and I'm going to show, based on the visibility that you have, Tony's not sharing any of his calendar. But again, just like before, these are the files that Tony's worked with, that he's either shared with me, or he's got on Teams and SharePoint sites that I have content, that I have access to, that I can see. And of course, these are all clickable as well. So I can jump to the site, I can jump to him, I can go to the file itself, and so on. And occasionally on some of these results, you'll see it'll put a little see more link down on the bottom. So if I really want to go to my full results, I'm on Bing now, and I'm just way too interested in this cool, Office 365 content that I'm seeing on Bing. You'll see those see more links come up on the bottom. It'll jump over there, run that same search, and I'm in the full search experience on Office 365, and I can do the filtering and all the other good stuff that's out here. And if you're like me right now, you're going, how do we turn this on, right? Okay. This is cool. Let's turn this on. This is not on by default. And that's what we just did there. So again, I'm going to these are the screenshots. Again, I got them in the deck in case you just want the deck. for showing to others. Some of the sample searches, the me, the my documents. Before I go into the setup, I just want to kind of quickly cover this. What are some compelling arguments for using this? Combine just the mere fact that we combine two sets of enterprise search experiences together in one search engine, one search pane, is alone just one of the great things for increasing productivity and saving time. They're not interrupting their normal day to go to another tab to do some searching. They can just have it there and then control what they see as far as the results. Like I mentioned earlier, it's leveraging Azure AD. You're not seeing anything that you wouldn't normally see on Office.com. SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, Yammer, Groups, Content. So as I mentioned before, those are all surfaced by default, and you can control which one of those that you see. And again, those are all restricted to the login and the security that you would normally enjoy through Office 365. Very easy to customize. We're going to talk about that when I get into the admin portal. Some of the keywords you saw me searching for, we're going to show you how to add more of those that are relevant to your organization. And there's other things you can do, and I'll get into this when I get into the admin. You can target groups, you can target devices, you can have start and end dates for things, all kinds of ways that you can control what shows up and what doesn't show up. So for those of you following along, go to your admin portal in Microsoft and Office 365, and under Settings, there is a Services and Add-in. And if you scroll down a little, look for the Microsoft Search. And it's a fairly simple icon. I'm not going to do this on part on the web, I'll just show you here. What you're going to get is you're going to get this screen, and it's probably off by default. So just turn that on, and don't worry, nobody gets notified about this. You're not, all your users are not going to get an email saying, hey, go try this. Nothing will happen. It'll just make it enabled so that when someone logs in with their Office 365 credentials on Bing, this will now actually work. By default, it'll let them log in if this is off, and nothing will happen. So it's a harmless thing for you to turn on and then start playing around with. I've had this on for a couple months at my organization, and no one has noticed because we're still kind of piloting it. We did use this actually quite a bit at ACE, and it was pretty successful there. Once you turn that on, the step 2 down there is the getting started. And I do want to kind of go through this. Everything that this wizard walks you through, you can go back and change later. This is just a getting started. I'm going to take you through a couple settings, get you going, and then you can go back to the admin panel later and make changes on this. So the first one is what I mentioned before, is the connected services. These are all on by default. So here's where you turn on and off people, groups, SharePoint, Teams, and Yammer, whether or not you want those surfaced through the Bing, Microsoft Search on Bing. If you're fine with that, click Next. The next one is the content settings. On the screenshot, I don't have it, but when you get to this, it will default the organization name to your tenant name. And these are the first 2 suggestions. You saw me do this earlier, the me and the my documents. Those show up in the little suggestions panel on the right side. So down the road, as you're starting to add bookmarks and Q&A, I'm going to show you how those work. You may want to come back to here and add a few more of those in here if there's a really hot one that you want people to run. The 2 that you definitely want to do at a minimum is this upload logo. You saw that little olive kind of branch thingy that I had up there before that was on the box. You definitely want to do that. That box is not going to leverage any other setting for your logo. You need to change it here. And then based on the color of your logo, pick a nice background color for that logo. Definitely hover over this little eye over the logo, then it will tell you the appropriate size and image type that you should put up there. I believe 48 pixels is the recommended height. Height is more important than width on that. And I think they prefer PNG files, if I remember correctly. That's about it for getting the initial setup. So it's pretty much get your logo file ready, go through the setup, put it up there, and it'll work fine without it, and you can always add it back later. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to go to is once you've set that up, then you go administer it through bingforbusiness.com/admin. So I'm actually going to go ahead and show you that portal. And like a lot of other things, Microsoft Cloud, this does change over time. So the little caveat there, what I show you today may be tweaked in the future by Microsoft. So what I'm going to do, and all these slides are in the next part of the deck as far as what I'm going to go through. So all these screenshots of what I'm going to kind of show here are all in that deck for you guys to take a look at. So on the dashboard, I'm going to talk about, I'll come back to this because I need to tell you what bookmarks and Q&A are before we can talk about the landing page. So bookmarks and Q&A, in my opinion, these are the two most important sections in this admin panel that you need to pay attention to. And both of these are how keywords are responded to off Bing. There's a bunch of built-in stuff, but what you want to do is you want to leverage these two so that when someone types in something that's company-specific, you can give them a response that makes sense. The main difference between bookmarks and Q&A is bookmarks is really, they put this in, I'm going to give them a nice response back with a link for more information, and they're going to click that and go off and get what they need. Q&A is really more of a, they put this in, I'm going to surface up the response, and we're done. They asked a question, here's the answer, we're done. Other than that, they work very similar to each other. So within bookmarks, I'm going to cover this first. There are a bunch of built-in bookmarks. So once this is enabled, if they type in OneDrive, if they type in Word, if they type in My Site, if they type in Outlook Web Access, got some users that found that one on the first day when I was playing around with it. How do I get Outlook Web Access? You're already logged in. You should just click on the Outlook icon. Okay. All of these have been already pre-configured as far as built-in bookmarks. So Microsoft, when you turn this on, they put all these bookmarks out there, and you can change all of them. You can delete the ones you don't like. You can add more keywords to the ones that are there. You can tweak these. These are just turned on by default. So let's take a quick look at one of these. I'm going to pick the My Site and OneDrive one. So when you're editing or creating bookmarks, and the Q&A experience is very similar to this, and yes, there's security around this portal, which I'll get to in a little bit. The person that turns on Microsoft Search for Bing is automatically an admin on this portal. And then you can go back and add more admins and editors later after that. So what you see in the top here is a preview. So this is the card that they're going to get when one of these keywords is triggered and this bookmark runs. And it shows a preview of it. So what's nice about this is as you're making changes below, it will refresh the card above so you can see exactly what the user is going to see when they get in here. So I'm going to kind of show this to you. So the title's the title. The URL for bookmark is required. You need to fill that out because basically you want to give them a link that they can go to for more information on whatever the question is. Then the description. So again, for Q&A, that's really much more of a content. For bookmarks, it's more of like, okay, we understand what you're looking for. Here's a description of it. Go click on the link to go get what you're looking for. Keywords, I really haven't found a limit to these. You can have as many of these as you want to. The order of the bookmarks matters. So if you happen to put the word, I'll pick one of these, my OneDrive, for example. You might have that in 3 bookmarks. So they all have the same keywords. The one at the top is going to be the one that's the priority. So by default, when you go create a bookmark or Q&A, it's just in draft. You actually have to go publish it to make it available on the site. So that allows you to set up stuff in advance, especially for some of these additional options you're going to see here. That's why you may want to do it. So by default, when you publish, everything's available instantly and it's there for all users. This is where this bottom section is where you control, and the Q&A is the same way, how this stuff shows up. So for example, bookmarks. Let's say we want to have company holidays as one of our keywords. This can change every year. I want to set up, it's 2019 now and it's November 2019. I want to set up the 2021s now and put the bookmark out there, but I want to control it off the dates. So I would just come in here, create the bookmark for 2020, and then I can put my date range in there. And so that immediately will tell it that, okay, when we start January 1st next year, this one's going to kick in and override the bookmark I have for the prior year's holidays. And all these things at the bottom are all optional. It just gives you the ability to really target this stuff. So countries and regions. So if you're an international company and you want this to work outside of your default tenant region, you can come in here and I'm not going to show all this, but you can come in here and control specific countries. So maybe you have a Japan office and they come in here and they type in company holidays. We want to set up another one for Japan, which so they type in company holidays, and I've targeted that to Japan. They actually get the link for the Japan company holidays versus the US ones. That's an example for that. So I mentioned earlier that you can control this stuff from a security standpoint, by default, everything is set to everyone. But you can come in here and target this. So maybe even within a country, let's say, you've got specific groups that you want to target. And this is all, I believe there's only one option for this. Yeah, security groups. So that has to be a security group that's visible in the cloud. So if you're leveraging an on-prem security group, you got to make sure it's synced up to the cloud. So you can come in here and select which ones you want, tag them, and users that trigger this bookmark will have to be in that security group to see it. So you might have some scenarios where that would work well for you. And these can all be combined. So I can go crazy. I can build a Japanese-only group for these 4 groups that are in Japan, and it's for these 4 dates. And, you can mix and match this stuff all you'd like to. Device in OS, so same idea here. It's on for everything, which you can come in and say, okay, I'm just going to target my Mac users, for example. Because when they type in this keyword, I need to send them to a different spot because the Mac, it works differently in the Mac, and that support is a little bit different. So I want to target those platforms. Well, let's say you want to set up one for iOS and Android. You can create a bookmark just for mobile. So if they type in Outlook and they're coming in from a mobile device on Bing, they'll actually get my bookmark that I set up for iOS and Android. Yes?
Can you copy a bookmark to another?
I don't know. I don't know if you can do that. I haven't needed to do that yet. You can import and export, so I'll cover that. Hold that thought. Target variations. So this actually lets you combine the countries with the mobile device options. This is so where you can actually create more of a targeted scenario where the country and the mobile device needs to both be taken into account. So this is an example where maybe I want to do 3 countries with 2 platforms and set them up with 1 bookmark, and away I go. And Michael's eyeing this Power App link down here, waiting for me to click on it. This is relatively new. So when I saw this and I was putting this together, I'm like, Power App? What is that? This is relatively new. I do have a demo for it that I'm going to show you guys. You can set a bookmark up so that when it's triggered, a Power App that you've already built somewhere and that you come in here and configured will actually show up in the card on the right side and be fully interactive. I have a scenario for you for that one. So I set one up just to show you guys called Company Trip Ideas. So the company's currently got on our intranet site, we're already soliciting ideas for company trips. And I've already got a list out there, and I've already got my Power App, and I'm already encouraging people to click on it and vote for where they want to go on the company trip. So my Power App's already out there. I just want to set up a bookmark so that if someone types in company trip or company trip ideas or trip ideas, any combination of those keywords, I'm going to give them the link that goes to the site on my intranet where they can vote. But on the bottom here, I've also set a Power App for it. And when you go, once this is set up, you go into Power Apps, there's a section in there called Settings, and it has a field called App ID, that's where you pull that from. And it will default the width and height of the Power App based on how it's configured, and you can go ahead and tweak it for the bookmark if you want it to be, if you want to change the size or whatever you want to do for that. Okay, we got to see that in action. Let's go try that out. Yes, absolutely. So if I type in company trip ideas, well, let me go back to Bing. You can Bing, and then click on Bing, and then you'll get Bing. Yeah, no one here has ever done that. Company, what else? Oh, okay. Now it's going to go, hey, I've got a keyword in a bookmark for company trip ideas. And he typed that exactly. I'm going to go ahead and fire up that bookmark. So there's my title, my link, my description, and lo and behold, there's my Power App inside the card. And since it's inside the card, I can hide it. I can bring it back, just like the whole rest of that card. But while it's up and running, it's fully interactive. So I can start typing in, oh, someone voted for Orlando. And I can start typing this in, look at that. It actually is fully interactive, and I can, just like the Power App would live somewhere else, and I can go ahead and edit, and I can, all the security, again, you need to make sure that your users have security into this Power App, otherwise it won't work. But think of some support scenarios you could handle with that, or maybe you've already built a Power App somewhere to handle questions or tickets or something like that. And you just want to, hey, they're out doing an internet search, and I set up a bunch of keywords like help or help desk or open a ticket or some keywords like that. And I just want to pop up that Power App right away. They click new, they put their ticket in, it's off and running, and they can go back to their internet searches. I thought that was a pretty cool scenario. Good on bookmarks, I'm going to go to Q&A. So again, the difference between bookmarks and Q&A is I ask a question, I give them the answer in the card. The card itself has all the information they're looking for. Whereas a bookmark's kind of like, okay, it looks like you're interested in this, click on this link to get more information. So this is more of a ask a question, get an answer. So there's a little bit more editing capability in this because it really is almost like leveraging a full page for the user. There are no default Q&A set up. This is this is obviously very specific to organizations, so they don't set any up. So we've got a new CEO of our company. I make this up, we don't have a new CEO in my company. Okay, so Nick Shaw is new. He's already been promoted on the intranet, and he's already making the round of all my offices and so on. But I decided to go ahead and set up a Q&A so that if someone types in who is our CEO, or tell me about our CEO, or they type his name in, or again, as many of those keywords that you like, they actually get this card back that you see in the preview up here, and you'll notice that the answer description is actually full HTML, editable, so you can put all your, if you already got this in a Word document or on a page somewhere, you can paste all that stuff in there. And below, just like the bookmarks, you've got the same set of options. So restricted by dates, by country, by groups, by device OS, all those different options on there. So if I'm just interactively working with things and I just want to quickly go, hey, who's Nick Shaw? Nick is a real person, by the way. I don't know him, but I did steal his LinkedIn description and change some of it. But that's a keyword found in Q&A. And something else you're going to notice up here, remember before we had the files and sites and conversations tab, look what it added up there now, Q&A. It's telling me kind of right on the screen that this particular keyword was triggered off the Q&A. This actually happened before. I mean, I may have run through it a little bit quicker. I must go now. Just to show you what that looked like from before. Yeah. So I don't know if you missed this before, but when we did the bookmark, it put bookmarks up there. So the user has a visual clue as to where this response came from. And I always like the little reminders they stick down at the bottom here. Only employees from this tenant can see this, just as a nice little reminder. You'll also notice that along that bottom line for all of these cards, there's a feedback button. And you can control, and the wizard actually prompted us for a feedback email address. So you fill that out, and then anytime the user using this clicks that feedback button, it'll take whatever they type in that box and email it to you guys. You know, get some feedback. What's up, Michael? You know what? This is a different one. Okay, Michael, that's the wrong feedback button. My apologies. Yeah, that's the good call, Michael. That's the user voice one. Where did it go? Okay, just need to sign out. Okay, not remembering at the moment where that is, but there is a link out here when they're interacting with this to send it to you. Is it one more? Oh, that goes to the, okay.
We did see it earlier.
Yeah, it'll come to me. Those are the two main things I wanted to cover in here. I do want to mention some of the other stuff in here. And again, as long as you've got this turned on that no one knows about and you're just configuring it and playing with it, you guys can do all the configuration that you would like to do on this and really test it out before letting users in. So locations, again, there's nothing pre-populated in here. This leverages Bing Maps pretty nicely. You go in and set up all your locations, all your offices, and by putting in the address and the keywords, they can be on Bing and just, hey, what's the address for the Chicago office? I don't remember. So they come in here, and I only set up Chicago, but there's actually my company actually set up all of our remaining offices yesterday. It was pretty fun to see people bring this up. So it will bring up a keyword at just Chicago off of that, but I could have done Chicago office too. So you'll get the title, you'll get the address, and then you'll get the Bing map right in here, and then you click on larger map, and of course that goes over to the full Bing map, and then they can do what they would like from there. There's no office at that. I just like one on South Wicker. Apologies to anyone that has an actual office on South Wicker. Okay, so user permissions. So as I mentioned earlier, when you turn this on, you are the sole admin of the Bing for Business admin portal. This is where you go in to add more admins and also something called editors. So what editors can do is they have the ability to just edit the bookmarks, locations, and Q&A. So if you've got other folks that are much better at writing stuff than you are and are much more educated on search and what your users are going to need, you can just come into here, give them editor rights, and then they can come in and add, change, update bookmarks, Q&A, and locations to help you out. I'll talk a little bit more about that and then when we get to my adoption section. So connected services, we saw this earlier. This is where you go if you need to turn off any of the services that we had on earlier. And content settings, same idea. This is where, and it gives you a nice little preview card. This is where we change the logo and query suggestions and so on. So all that stuff that you saw in the wizard when we first started, you can always come back here and reconfigure. There's some additional stuff under tools. Some of this is more for the SharePoint folks in the crowd. This is kind of nice. If you've already got on-premise SharePoint, you've been using SharePoint a lot, you have two options here for taking your top queries off your existing SharePoint search engine, whether it's on-prem or in the cloud, and any promoted results that you've already built. And this has the download for the bookmarks for the queries, download your CSV, and then you go back and import it. And this one just does the direct import for the query rules. So if you've already leveraged some of the existing SharePoint search stuff to primarily run the bookmarks area, they allow you to easily pull this into Bing for Business.
Can I add something real quick?
Yep.
If you'll notice, for Microsoft Search in Bing extension, there's a download for both Edge and for Chrome. Okay.
All right, so yes, there are two extensions for browsers. The first one is Content Creator. So this is really awesome for your editors. If that's you, that's great. If it's others, I would highly recommend that if you've got a bunch of people editing bookmarks and Q&As for you and trying to keep those added and current, install the top one there, the Content Creator browser extension for Edge or Chrome, and they can be on a page, let's say on an intranet page, that, oh, I need to make this a bookmark. This is awesome. But right from there, they can click on the extension and right from that panel, add it in as a bookmark, and then continue what they're doing. So it's kind of like it's kind of like what we were doing before, but specifically for bookmarks and Q&A for them through the extension to be able to add that right from the browser. And then lastly is my favorite one, which is the Microsoft Search in Bing extension for Edge and Chrome. And what that does is it gives you, I don't have it installed on there, but it gives you an icon on the top right that basically gives you that Bing for Business, Microsoft Search in Bing for Business experience as an extension. So you can be on a page, click that link, and you'll get a window that comes up. And then from there, you can actually type in a quick search, get some results, close it, and not interrupt what you're already doing on another page. So you don't necessarily. So what's nice about that is you don't have to go to Bing to make that work. You can just stay on your page, click the extension, you get a window in the top right, you put in your search, get your results back, close the window, and then you're continuing on through whatever you're doing in the current tab. I haven't tried that on Edge, but it does work pretty nicely on Chrome.
Okay. Question in the background?
Yep.
Yeah, this begs the question. Is there any talk? I'll just mic up.
Is there any talk about adding an option for bots?
Not that I know
because that seems like the,
That's like the next
This is like
generation.
the next step, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
In particular, the Q&A functionality here, there is a Q&A bot that you can set up in Azure.
So like many of these collaboration tools, there's some overlap. We'll see where they go with it. In the deck, I do, if you grab this later, I do kind of go through what I talked about as far as the optional items for setting up the bookmarks and Q&A. So I did want to talk a little bit more about those real quick. Bookmarks and Q&A can be imported and exported. And for the import, they give you the CSV link, you download it, and they got a little instruction part of that, and you can fill it out. So if you want to manually create that stuff, or you want to pull it from another system, you can import that and export the ones you currently have and move it somewhere else. So if you have a multi-tenant scenario, that's where I found that import export very useful, where you maybe have a bunch of Microsoft Search on Bing stuff already set up, and you just want to copy that essentially to the other tenant, you can import and export it. The other thing that I've been super impressed with over the last 2 years, bookmarks and Q&A used to take 5 to 10 minutes to finally show up on Bing. I've been able to hardly ever catch this thing not being instantly available as soon as I add it. Moving within a few seconds. You add a new bookmark, 1, 2, go to Bing, and it's there. So your changes are immediately available. As long as you've published it and there's no restrictions on dates or whatever, it shows up on the portal pretty darn quick. Something else that shows up on both the Q&A and bookmarks is a far tab called Suggestions. Over time, Bing will start coming up with suggestions. Okay, they're in Bing, they're doing a bunch of searches, they're connected to your portal, we're seeing these words used a lot. I'm going to give you a suggestion. And so right from there, from that suggestion, whether it's a bookmark or Q&A, you can actually create one right from there. So hey, that's a good suggestion. Create it, make my changes to it, publish it, and you're helping out your users. Locations, we talked about that. We talked about all the services, content settings, and tools. And here's the extension in action. So I've got I don't know what I'm on here, CNN or something. This is the main tab here, and I clicked on the top right corner. It's this blue-green Bing icon, and it just comes up as a little dialogue over what I'm running. And I can type in my search, get all the Microsoft Search on Bing results back, and then I can just close the tab when I'm done, and I'm back to close the dialogue when I'm done, and I'm back where I was before. So that's what the search extension looks like. Okay, we're an adoption group. Let's talk about adoption. So a lot of this will depend on all the other stuff you got going on, of course. You've already got search in intranets. You've already got search in lots of other places. So this is just one other tool that you guys can start considering for as part of your overall adoption plan. So like anything else, you need stakeholders. Who doesn't? You need scenarios, readiness, and rollout. So I'm going to kind of go through those 4. So on the stakeholder side, and this is for the most part what you're going to see on that docs.com link that I sent earlier. Executive sponsor, business owner, content management team, and champion. Sounds familiar? It's no different than anything else you're already doing with your portal as far as getting those people signed up. You want to impress them, go set it up, turn it on, and then 5 minutes later walk down the hall and go show someone, have them go to Bing and log on, and just have them type their name in. If you want to pop some eyes right away, that's one of the first things I did. My boss was like, that is cool, we can use that. Just to see your stuff surface right in the same search engine that they're already using. Search admin, I mentioned this before, so if you've already got your diehard SharePoint search administrators working on your on-prem or cloud environment, and they already have a pretty darn good feeling for what people are searching for, you definitely want them on the team. Because you'll see those bookmarks and Q&A are really what allow you to personalize this experience for your company. Editors, we love these people. These are the ones that are going to be maybe already working on the internet content, and maybe the same people as your search admins. We definitely want them involved to help us on our journey with this. Okay, so scenarios. So this is very much like coming up with search scenarios already within your company. What are the pain points when they're searching? So again, the suggestions really help with that. I know SharePoint Search Admin Portal gets you a lot of good stuff as far as what people are searching on. And again, working with your team to figure out where the pains are for when they're searching. What are they searching for? And then there's another really good link out there. This is linked off the docs one as well. This is just a dedicated page things that you can do and understand and how you can take this and apply it to your organization. This covers more than just Microsoft Search and Bing. It covers kind of Microsoft Search across all the products. But this is a really good one. It's docs.microsoft.com/Microsoft Search, why Microsoft Search. There's a lot of really good stuff in there about how this can apply to your organization. So readiness, there's really not much new here that you haven't seen before. Setting up the portal, trying it out, putting some bookmarks and Q&A out there. Is it ready for us to try and get our users involved? Drafting communications, engaging your help desk. That's another set of users you definitely want involved in this. So if they're on Bing and they're connected and they're running searches and they're not finding what they're looking for and they open a help desk ticket, you definitely want the help desk involved as far as getting ready for this and supporting it going forward. Pilot users, I'm a huge fan of this. So if it's not your own group, find a couple groups that are willing to push the edge a little bit and be pilots. And you don't even have to use the security option to tighten it down with just them. Just put something together that shows them how to use it, leave it on for the whole organization. Because unless someone knows to actually go to Bing.com and log in with their tenant ID, they're not gonna come across the platform. And then work with them to get the scenarios identified, give them a certain amount of time to set things up and play around with it, figure out what bookmarks and Q&A. You gotta keep coming to that because those are so important that you want to set up. Survey them, hey, what did you search for that you couldn't find? What can we do to improve this? And so on. And then you're just in a typical rollout for your organization. Whatever works well for you. Big bang by group, generating awareness, sending out communication, getting feedback, all those types of things. So I'll leave that up there for a second. But again, this is really not much different than any of your other Office 365, Microsoft 365 plans that you're already going. This slide is super important. So this is specific to Microsoft Search on Bing. There's two things in here that I really want to cover that I found were the biggest problems with adopting this. Enabling service, locking down, that's great. Number 2 bullet, this was my biggest problem. There's another search engine out there that searches the internet that tends to be the default for most browsers. It's not Bing. And changing that over to Bing can be a challenge. So, it's really going to be a matter of trying to figure out what's the best way to get that to happen. You may have a chunk of users that don't care. You may have others that are going, hey, you guys changed my default search engine. I don't like that. It's a personal preference thing, and it's really going to be tied to your organization. But if you can somehow figure out how to make that change, so Bing is the default search engine. Not necessarily for the home page, but more importantly for the default search engine when they type something on the command line to do a search. So that if that's Bing, and they can just log in and then look at their search results from the tenant. Michael, do you have a question?
I was just going to
Yep.
add that the browser add-ins, there is one for a Bing search, Bing for Microsoft Search and Bing extension for Chrome. So if a person prefers to use Chrome and Google, they can still have a button in their toolbar to do the Bing search.
I'm gonna restate that because that's awesome. Good point there, Michael. So, and I'll actually add that. I'll add that to the deck before we send this out. So one other thing that Michael just brought up is that maybe what we do instead is we push out the Chrome extension and the Edge extension, and we just, when people want to have that experience off of whatever they're currently doing, we just leverage that through the extension and don't have to change their default search engine. That's really good. I like that. I actually ran into this one with a few people that just love their Bing rewards, and they're already using their Outlook.com with Bing, and they get their Starbucks cards and Amazon cards every few months. Okay, I'm guilty. I do that too. That won't work for this because they're going to Bing and they're logging in with their personal account. It's not gonna. It's one or the other. You're either logged into that tab with your personal account to Microsoft, or you're logged in through your work or school account with Office 365. So if they like to be in Bing and logged in with their personal account, one of the things you might run into is, I don't want to log out and log back in with my other account just to make this thing work. So that might be something you might run into. I only had a couple of those, so it's really not an issue unless someone is doing a lot of that. This one is big too. This is probably bigger than anything else. You need to be far enough along in your Office and Microsoft 365 journey to have enough content out there to make this really, really rock. If you're really early and all you've got is email and maybe some Skype users and you're not really using OneDrive and SharePoint yet, they're not going to get much back from this other than the people search. That's about it.
So a good thing is go out to Delp and see what's out there.
Go out to Delp. Very good. Delve is a good kind of mirror of what you're going to see. If you get some good stuff back in Delve and you're doing searches and bringing people up, this is going to work well. And I'm actually running into this now with my organization because we don't have a lot of, besides OneDrive, we don't have a lot of Teams and SharePoint content up there. So we're going to wait a little bit on this. That's it for me. There's all my contact info, my blog, my email, my Twitter, my LinkedIn, all that content stuff. And that's it, Michael, for me.
Dave, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So now is the time when we usually do some open discussion. Let's start it off with who here thinks they would turn this on today and start using it? I see a show of 3 or 4 hands in the room.
Turn it on already. Yeah. There, yeah.
Given the fact I have to get the right permission, but yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, I have a question about all this.
So we have it turned on. As you said, it's not being used that much. It's not a primary concern of mine right now that it is used. But I'm wondering, is there any thought about bringing this type of search into the apps themselves? Because our users kind of have to leave Office 365 in order to use this search, whereas all of our Teams has search, Yammer has search, and results like this would be great from within those tools. So do we know if there's any thought about bringing that approach into the tools themselves?
And I'm going to ask Joe about this. Wasn't there a roadmap item for search bars coming to Office applications?
Yeah, and it's soon. Yeah, I mean, it's soon. That's all I need to know. But yeah, if you go on the roadmap site, I believe it's up there now, and I think it says H2. So certainly is top priority.
Will it match up with Bing? I mean, will it be the same?
Yeah.
The only real difference here is that you're starting off in Bing and then you're getting to
Right. But, yeah.
So it's still leveraging Microsoft Search. So what's coming to Office and the other apps is all Microsoft Search. It's all the same. It's all the
Yeah,
same.
we're replacing all. In fact, we're replacing all of the search. Will be the Bing search. So that's what's going to happen.
And that's going to come to Windows 10.
It's all going to be
Yep.
unified.
Windows 10.
Yep, it's going to be unified. Yep. Yeah. So if you use the Cortana thing below, it's all
I think what you're seeing,
eventually the same thing.
what you're seeing from Microsoft is, you know, when they started with Office 365 about 5 years ago now, they kind of took all these applications and put them under an umbrella, and now it's gaining so much traction, they're actually going in and integrating them all to be a real truly unified experience and they're trying to, let me rephrase that, their goal is, I think, to make that a real unified infrastructure, so to speak, right? So you're using the same experience no matter where you're at in there, and that's, you know, if you've used all the different pieces, you know that hasn't happened yet, right? It's still a little quirky when you go from one to the other, so I think that's their goal, and I think they're starting to put that time and effort into that.
Yeah, and what you'll see is there's a really big focus on Teams, obviously, because we believe that's it's central to the we believe that's central to the workspace in the future. But and so a lot of that's happening in Teams first, but there's also some work happening in Office or in Office apps as well, Exchange and Windows 10 in general. So.
Yeah, and so just to complement that, so with the approach that Dave shared, the good is that it's a very Microsoft-centric approach. The thing that I heard you mention was how do you work with other platforms and applications? And so when I was talking about you're seeing search change right now, what we're doing is we're actually embedding that inside Salesforce or inside ServiceNow. Because then you actually don't have to bounce around to all the different platforms. And so, now not to say that Microsoft might do that down the road, but we don't think they're going to do that. But that's what we said. Okay, what he shared today is, I think it's again very nice. I think you see search continuing to improve. But, and again, it depends on what your business requirements are. If you're looking at it from a true holistic approach, you have more than Microsoft. And so what we did is said, okay, We still need to support the Microsoft stuff, but what about the Oracle databases or all the other platforms that somebody has? And we've embedded that into those applications. So there are other approaches. I just call it, I always look at it kind of like O365, right? It's phases, it's steps. That's a great step. Once you get to that, you're like, okay, now where do we go? You know, then you look at somebody like us, which would take it to another level up.
Similar to how you connected the Power App, is there talk of like integration with the Power BI reports? Because I know they have Q&A functionality. So like if you were to type in something in Bing, a report might come
Probably
up.
could be done through URLs.
Okay.
I bet you it'll be, it's just like it magically appeared, right? I mean, that's how they're releasing things now, right? So, and you have to believe that everybody's asking for Power BI. I would expect that to be there. One of these days, that'll start away. I mean, because that is like such the second or third application that people actually wanting to run. Right?
Yeah, and RBI's huge.
It has to be right behind that, and just how they do the magic release dates. It's just weird.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
I would say stay tuned.
And I'm curious, one last thing with the unified search, are we gonna see the Bing results for those searches as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it should be literally the same